Hello and welcome, and thanks for tuning in. You're watching Gravitas. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Here's what's coming up tonight on the show. The 20th National Party Congress is underway in China. Xi Jinping is set to become a leader for life. From Taiwan to Hong Kong, the Chinese leader spoke about Beijing's aggressive stance on all matters, China's future plans. But something else made headlines today. During the CPC Congress, China played clips from the June 2020 clash between India and China. Xi Jinping also spoke about improving the Chinese army. Remember, this is all happening when disengagement talks are underway. Why then, I ask, would Beijing show this clip at this very important political event? What is Beijing's true intent? What message is China trying to send to India? This is our top focus tonight on Gravitas. Stay with us. Have you seen those pictures before? There's quite a good chance that you might have. Ever since the clashes in Galwan, the Chinese propaganda machinery has been pushing this video. And with a rather old narrative about how India was the aggressor in Galwan, not China. China is now trying to revive that same story by using the stage of the country's biggest political event, the Communist Party Congress. Do you know what happened yesterday? That same video was played at the Great Hall of the People. Just minutes before Xi Jinping himself took the stage to deliver his speech, China tried to spread propaganda about Galwan. The consequences of this move are clear. The India-China relationship is already at rock bottom. Reviving the Galwan propaganda will complicate any dialogue to restore peace at the border. But what signals is Beijing trying to send to New Delhi? That's what we are going to discuss tonight on the show. Let's now start with those pictures again. Here's a quick recap. The Chinese state media had released it last year. Simply put, it is a military propaganda. Beijing claimed that this video is of the clashes at the Galwan Valley. This region is at the center of the current India-China border standoff. The clashes happened back in April 2020. 20 Indian soldiers were killed in action. What about Chinese casualties? They have always been a big question mark. Officially, Beijing claims that 4 soldiers died in the clashes, but there are many who suspect that China's casualty numbers were much higher. And at the center of this video is a PLA commander. His name is Xi Fabao. You may have heard of him before. Apparently, he was injured during these clashes. Obviously, this claim is part of the Chinese narrative. We cannot independently verify it. But here is what we can say for sure. This story, the story of Xi Fabao, has now become a propaganda tool for the Chinese press and now the Chinese state. Earlier this year, Xi Fabao was picked as a torchbearer for the Winter Olympics in Beijing. A move which was widely condemned here in India. Back then, New Delhi had lodged a diplomatic protest. India's top diplomat in China did not attend the opening and closing ceremonies of the Winter Games. Listen in.
It is indeed regrettable that the Chinese side has chosen to politicize an event like the Olympics. Our chargé d'affaires of the Embassy of India in Beijing will not be attending the opening or the closing ceremony.
America had slammed China's move too. A top US lawmaker had termed China's move as shameful. In fact, he had termed Xi Fabao's command as the aggressor in Galwan. Now, Fabao is back in Beijing. He's part of a larger propaganda push this time. He's attending the Communist Party Congress. When that propaganda video was being played, he was sitting inside the Great Hall of the People. That's like China's parliament, the main venue for the party congress. More than 2,000 delegates are attending the event this time. Politically, this is a significant event, since Xi Jinping will be reappointed for a historic third term in office. And Xi Fabao is one of the delegates at the Congress. He is representing China's military at the event. And he hasn't come alone, he has company. A total of 304 representatives from the PLA are attending the party congress. Out of this, 30 representatives are from the Western Theatre Command of the PLA. This is the same theatre command which looks after the border with India. If we filter these numbers further, there are 9 delegates at the party congress who are from the Red Army Division of the PLA. So what's the Red Army Division? Let me explain. Officially, they are known as the 6th Division of the PLA, and unofficially, they are also called the Red Army. They have a long history of operating in the border areas near Ladakh. So you can see how much attention the Communist Party is paying to China's border with India. So what's cooking in Beijing? How should India look at what's happening in Beijing as of now? Let's now take these questions to our guests on Gravitas tonight. Joining me tonight on the show is Vishnu Prakash, a former diplomat. Ambassador, welcome to the show. Now, we just showed our viewers the Galwan clip being played at the party congress. In your view, what message is China trying to give to India? What is Beijing's intent?
You know, I've been a China watcher for quite some time, and it is a typical ploy from the Chinese playbook to blend fact and fiction, to create an alternative reality by doctoring facts. They do it over and over again. Look at what they've done in South China Sea, where they have laid a claim to more and more territory. Now, by doctoring facts. Now, here again, what you see is that the Galwan episode is being presented as an act of aggression by India. The same video, but history has been turned on its head. And the very fact that they are doing this again and again, eulogizing Chief Fabao, displaying the videos like this, it is meant to keep the issue alive. It is meant to whip up Chinese nationalist sentiments. And if you also combine it with the fact that they have enacted the land border law, it would appear that they are wanting to play hardball, that they are not going to, they are testing India's resolve, they are testing India's patience, and that is what they are trying to do. However, we have been there, we have seen that, and we are prepared. The Somdorongchu incident was resolved in 6 years. So the thing is that we have to play according to their game and play it one better. That is what we are doing.
Right, Ambassador, I want to delve on what you've just said, that clearly China is testing India's resolve, and all this while talks have been ongoing between India and China to disengage. Given this recent development, do you see any honesty of purpose from the Chinese side in these talks?
Where is the trust? It's not a question of trusting each other, because the trust has been breached very badly. It was breached in 62, it was breached in 86, 87, and now after 30 years of confidence-building measures and agreements, 14 rounds of summit-level talks, there is no trust. But even if there is no trust, you have to start from scratch. And you make hay slowly, you cover your flanks, you verify everything, you cross-check. So that is what you're doing. And hopefully again, lay the foundation of another round of confidence building measures sometime in the distant future. But at the moment, it is they have to restore status quo ante. And yes, the talks have been slow, but talks have made progress, and we have to stay the course.
Right, Ambassador Prakash, thank you so much for all those insights and thanks for speaking to us tonight. Now let's stay with the party Congress. There's a lot more to unpack. Clearly, the PLA is a sideshow at the party Congress. The spotlight, in fact, is naturally on Xi Jinping. This party Congress is all about him. This week, President Xi looks set to pull off yet another power grab. He'll be reconfirmed as president for a historic third term, a move that effectively puts him in history books as China's president for life. The vote is honestly just a formality at this point. Xi Jinping had secured a third term for himself 4 years back, when China got rid of the term limits for president. A vote had happened back then too, and here is what the final tally looked like. Close to 3,000 votes were cast in favour of removing the term limits. 2 votes were cast against the proposal. 3 voters abstained, while 1 vote was declared invalid. So essentially, 99.8% wanted the term limits abolished. There were more abstentions and invalid votes than the number of votes, or against votes rather. That tally essentially represents Xi Jinping's power. The third term is a foregone conclusion at this point. Xi will control all levers of power in China, at least for the foreseeable future. So how did he get in this position? How did Xi Jinping become China's most powerful leader since Mao? In the next few minutes, we'll tell you how Xi Jinping consolidated power. Since he took on the top job 10 years ago, Xi Jinping has rewired the Communist Party. He deployed 3 methods to centralize all the power in his hands. Number 1, he purged all rivals through an anti-corruption campaign. Number 2, he filled key positions with loyalists. And number 3, he broke decades-old rules to centralize power. Let me explain what I'm trying to say. Now first, the anti-corruption campaign. The Chinese president launched this right after he took office. It has been 10 years. And here's what the campaign has accomplished so far. More than 4.7 million people have been investigated by anti-corruption authorities. And more than 1.5 million officials have faced punishment. Among those who were punished were direct rivals of Xi Jinping. Listen in.
Xi Jinping has used the anti-corruption mechanism as a very potent weapon to intimidate and get rid of his political enemies. So at this time, after 10 years, I think most of his formidable political foes have already been brought down by the anti-corruption campaign. And he will continue to use this anti-corruption card to ensure his supremacy in the new leadership setup.
So who were these political enemies? The list is rather long, but experts often put emphasis on 2 names, Bo Xilai and Zhu Yongkang. They were considered to be Xi Jinping's main political rivals. They were charged for corruption and put behind bars. Now, once the rivals were out, Xi Jinping then replaced them with loyalists. That was his second move. Again, I have some numbers for you at this point. There are 31 provincial-level party secretaries in China. At least 24 of these are known political associates of Xi. They have either known the president's family, studied with him, worked under him, or worked with one of Xi Jinping's close allies. The Chinese president is planning to install more loyalists to top positions. The Politburo Standing Committee is the top decision-making body of the Communist Party. It is called Xi Jinping's Inner Circle. The Chinese president is planning a reshuffle now. Right now, there are 7 standing committee members. 2 are set to retire, and reports say their place will be taken up by more younger allies of Xi Jinping. Of course, Xi Jinping will retain his own portfolios. He holds 3 key posts. Xi Jinping is the president of China. He serves as the General Secretary of the Communist Party, the highest ranking official in China. And of course, he is the head of the Central Military Commission, the top decision-making body of China. So by holding these top positions, Xi Jinping is breaking some unwritten rules of the Communist Party. 2 decades ago, China's then president, Jiang Zemin, established age limits. Officials above the age of 68 should retire from office. There are more than 900 officials who have followed that rule since then, but Xi Jinping is unlikely to step aside due to his age. Age is hardly a factor for the Chinese president. His grip on power is absolute. Even when China is facing a serious economic crisis and the country is unable to shake off the pandemic. Look at this story now. It came out today. China was supposed to release its economic data this week. This includes the quarterly GDP numbers. Suddenly, Beijing has decided to delay their release. How much more time does the Chinese government need? Reports say Chinese officials have given no alternative dates just yet. Now, we could see more of the same in the coming days. A term extension for Xi Jinping would mean more of the same.
He's established himself as the sole penultimate leader of China. He's not beholden to the leaders around him. He is the core. He's not part of it. And as a result, we've seen some policy excesses. We've seen some challenges in China's economy. We've seen the zero COVID effort that's created mass social and economic disruption throughout China domestically. We've seen the ramping up of internal security, including censorship, policing, to further control and enhance the party's control over the everyday lives of Chinese citizens.
There are people in China who are now speaking out against these excesses. Last week, we witnessed an unprecedented protest against Xi Jinping. So will protests like these mean anything in the long run? Can they trigger a mass movement? Will Xi Jinping remain in complete control? Guess we will have to wait and see, and it's a story that we'll be tracking closely. Let's now move on to another part of the world. Let me show you what's happening in Ukraine. The capital city of Kyiv woke up to the sound of air raid alarms. Soon, drones struck the city. There were at least 2 blasts close to the city center. And this is Shevchenkivsky, a district in Kyiv. There are universities here, there are bars, restaurants. This is where at least 2 drones exploded.
After the first explosion, people started shouting, second blast, third blast, fourth blast.
We came here after getting a phone call from our mother who was buried under the rubble. She said, please find someone urgently to help me. I'm buried under the rubble.
Now, Kyiv's mayor says that numerous residential buildings were hit, as were non-residential areas. In total, there were at least 4 strikes, and at least 3 people were killed. Several others rushed to bomb shelters. See this cat? It was rescued from one of the damaged buildings.
The target destroyed the whole infrastructure of Ukraine, destroyed the infrastructure of our hometown. Russians is terror country. I'm more than sure.
Drones also hit the port city of Mykolaiv. The target was the Every Marine Terminal. It is Ukraine's second largest facility used to store sunflower oil that's naturally meant for export. The attack set sunflower oil tanks on fire. Now, this was hours before the drones hit the capital. Authorities say it took 5 hours to put out the fire. What Ukraine is saying is that the drones flew into the country from the south, and they weren't just any ordinary drones, but Kamikaze drones. The name itself sounds dangerous. So what really are these Kamikaze drones? Goes without saying, they are attack drones. They are difficult to detect on radar. These drones hover around the area and attack only after it has located the target. The machines are packed with explosives, and they explode when they come in contact with the target. While these drones are slow, a hit from them is almost like a hit from missiles. But these drones are cheaper than missiles. It's believed that Kamikaze drones are made in Iran. But Tehran says it never provided these drones to Russia. Listen in.
Unfortunately, news is published that stems from political goals and largely is developed by Western media. Just as it has countlessly announced, the Islamic Republic of Iran has not exported any weapon to any side of the war.
The US reportedly has its own version of kamikaze drones. So does China, Israel and Turkey. Coming to the next question now. Why are kamikaze drones called what they are? Actually, there is a historical context. And the story goes back to the Second World War. Back then, the Japanese would pack their fighter planes with explosives and then crash them into enemy targets. Basically, these would be suicide attacks, and they would cause heavy damage. The kamikaze drones operate in a similar manner. Obviously, there is no pilot flying these drones, but they too crash into the targets. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says that Russia is trying to terrorize the civilian population. What about Russia? What does it have to say about the drone strikes? The spokesperson of Russia's defense ministry says that it has carried out a massive attack on military targets. Also, the country's energy infrastructure. But Russia made no reference to these kamikaze drones. Instead, it mentioned using high-precision weapons.
All designated objects have been hit.
Ukraine does not agree. The country's Air Force says it has destroyed at least 85% of the drones that entered Ukraine's airspace this morning. Listen in.
In total, we've destroyed, since the attack started at 9:30 p.m. yesterday late evening until now, we confirmed that we've destroyed 37 kamikaze drones.
A journalist working with Reuters claims that he found fragments of one of these so-called kamikaze drones. He said the drone had words written on it. It read, "For Belgorod." Now, as some of you already know, Belgorod is a Russian city. And this is where it is located on the map. It is a border city, in fact, one that has been attacked during the war. And Russia has obviously pinned the blame on Ukraine. Now, we must read these developments in the context of what's happened in the recent days. Remember, NATO have members, and they have decided to bolster Russia's air defense. And Russia has appointed a new military general who's infamous for his quote-unquote ruthlessness. Let's now shift our attention to Europe, where thousands took to the streets of Paris on Sunday. In fact, France's new Nobel laureate, Annie Ernaux, was among them. The rally was called by left-wing parties opposed to President Emmanuel Macron. People marched to express their anger at the cost of living crisis. Our next report gets you all the on-ground details. Take a look.
Around 30,000 Parisians marched in protest on Sunday. The reason for their ire was the cost of living crisis. Public anger has been building in France for a while. Fuel shortages have added to the public's woes. A general strike has been called on Tuesday. There are fears of renewed yellow jacket protests. So what has led to this outpouring of anger in France? Let's start with the immediate troubles. Refinery workers have been striking in the country since the end of September. They demand a rise in wages. The strike has caused fuel supplies to gas stations to dry up. About 30% of France's petrol pumps face shortages. The shortages are particularly bad in Paris and northern France. People have been queuing up for hours to refuel. French people are being inconvenienced, but reports say more than 30% support the striking refinery workers. They believe the workers should get their due.
Those in charge of Total Energy earn a lot. They have made a lot of profit, and it's normal that the employees demand their dues. Some people are saying they already earn a lot. The problem is not there. It's a question of purchasing power. It's not because we earn 2,000 euros per month that our purchasing power should decrease. What we want is for everybody to live decently with the purchasing power we had before.
The public is furious at perceived windfall profits being made by energy companies. This is while they are suffering from the effects of inflation. And that is why they are marching.
We have a few demands. For me, being here shows that we must act and resist exploitation. As for the cost of living, we have an inflation at 6%, but if we take consumer goods into account, it's more 10%. So the loss of purchasing power is at 10%. Basically, a drop in salaries. That's what it comes down to.
The Russia-Ukraine war is fueling a cost of living crisis. Europe in particular has been badly hit. Most European nations are facing sharply rising inflation. The latest IMF data presents a grim picture, and reports say they could even go into recession. This is because they were dependent on cheap Russian gas. Now that the tap is drying up, ordinary citizens are facing the burden. The cost to import fuel has gone up. As a result, the price of energy has shot up too. It's more expensive to keep the lights on in Europe, so governments have been shutting them off where they can. Iconic landmarks like the Eiffel Tower went dark. But winter is approaching. Energy will be needed to keep homes warm, and people don't want to be forced to choose between food or warmth. They want to be able to afford everything they could before the war. People just want things to go back to normal. Most EU governments are backing Ukraine, but they are facing challenges at home. In France, the left wing is trying to capitalize on public anger. Italy and Sweden have seen the rise of right-wing governments. Anti-EU parties have been holding massive rallies in countries like the Czech Republic. European citizens are now asking their governments, what about us? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our next story is about Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan. He's making headlines once again, not because of his grumblings, but because of a by-poll win. Allow me to explain. In April this year, when he was ousted from power, all of his 131 lawmakers resigned. They quit Pakistan's National Assembly. 5 months on, elections for the seats that fell vacant are now being held in phases across the country. The first by-election was held for 8 seats. And guess what? Imran Khan's party has won 6 of those 8 seats, a major embarrassment to the ruling coalition, led of course by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Interestingly, Imran Khan himself contested in 7 of the 8 seats. Yes, as per Pakistan's electoral rules, individuals can stand from multiple constituencies and choose which seat to forfeit if they win more than one. Imran Khan didn't take any chances. He contested from 7 out of the 8 seats and won 6. An unprecedented move in Pakistan's political history. He will now have to forfeit all seats barring one. But the fact that he single-handedly trounced Pakistan's ruling alliance is a big achievement in itself. His supporters have hit the streets. They're rejoicing to the beats of Bhangra. Some Pakistan media outlets are now celebrating as well. This is the headline that one of them carried. I quote, "He defeats many." A trumpeting front-page banner headline, celebrating the former cricketer's win as a personal victory against the government. His friends and associates have responded too. Take, for instance, PTI loyalist Fawad Chaudhry. He says the people have voted for Pakistan's independence. Independence from whom? The Shehbaz Sharif government, which the PTI says has been installed by foreign forces. What about Imran Khan? How has he responded? Well, in his usual boastful way. He has called these results a referendum on his popularity. In a press conference after his victory, he said that Pakistani citizens have rejected their corrupt rulers. I'm quoting him. He also reminded them about the alleged respect that Pakistan used to enjoy when he was in power and the kind of treatment that Pakistan is now subjected to with Shehbaz Sharif at the helm. In fact, you must listen to this.
मैं ये आज सारे पाकिस्तान के इदारों को कहना चाहता हूँ कि जितनी देर आप इनको बैठने देंगे, जितनी देर ये हमारे ऊपर मुसल्लत रहेंगे, हमारा मुल्क नीचे जा रहा है। मैं जब अमेरिका गया था, जिस तरह डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने हमारा इस्तकबाल किया, जिस तरह मुझे उसने रिस्पेक्ट दी और मेरी डेलीगेशन की, सबसे पूछ लें। जनरल बाजवा गए थे तब, इनसे पूछे, किसी से पूछे कि कभी किसी पाकिस्तान के प्राइम मिनिस्टर को इस तरह की इज्जत दी है। बिलावल भुट्टो चारों तरफ फिर रहा है, वो कभी पाकिस्तान कभी आता नहीं। सिंध का बुरा हाल है, वो सारी दुनिया के चक्कर लगा रहा है। तो क्या फायदा हुआ इस डिप्लोमेसी का? चाइना और रशिया उसके साथ पाकिस्तान को ब्रैकेट कर दिया। किधर गई आपकी डिप्लोमेसी? और फिर जो खतरनाक बात उसने की है, उसने ये कहा कि पाकिस्तान दुनिया की खतरनाक जगह है और उसके साथ न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम की बात कर दी। अब ये एक पुराना पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ प्रोपेगेंडा चल रहा है। ये 1980 की दिहाई में ये इस्लामिक बॉम्ब का प्रोपेगेंडा चलता था मगरबी अखबारों में। मुझे याद है कि ये पूरी एक कैंपेन थी कि जनाब बाकियों के साथ इंडिया के पास हिंदू बॉम्ब नहीं, वो भी ठीक है, इसराइल के पास यहूदी बॉम्ब नहीं, वो भी ठीक है, लेकिन पाकिस्तान के पास इस्लामिक बॉम्ब है और ये खतरनाक है।
You heard him. So what happens now? The bypolls are over. Imran Khan has won. What comes next? Another phase of bypolls, where he will have to prove himself again. And from the looks of how he's faring, winning the next bypolls doesn't seem to be much of a Herculean task for Imran Khan. But he does face certain challenges, like a case of illegal foreign funds. Imran Khan's party has been accused of receiving funds from the United States and Australia. Funds which are unaccounted for in the books. Pakistan's Federal Investigation Agency has even issued a warrant in his name, but unfortunately he has managed to evade the arrest by securing an interim bail from court. Now, last we checked, the case was pending before Pakistan's top court. So if convicted, Imran Khan could face a ban on contesting elections. And if not, he still has plenty of other cases to deal with. For one, he faces a contempt case, charges of instigating riots, and even charges of terrorism filed by the government. He has so far emerged unscathed from these court battles, but there's no saying how long he can stay safe. Another big challenge that he faces is from Pakistan's Election Commission, a body he has antagonized far too much. It is the one behind the illegal funding charge. And going by how things function in Pakistan, the EC could prove to be an obstacle, a major one, in future bypolls. Imran Khan is aware about these challenges, but he thinks he can conquer them all, as long as the people are on his side, which is why he plans to do what he does best, dharna politics. Later this month, Imran Khan plans to hold a long march, a national rally, where he will hold mammoth rallies in a host of Pakistani cities to drum up support. Remember, the last time he held a similar rally, it culminated into riots in Islamabad. So what does he plan to do this time? Well, we can't say for sure, but given his bypoll win and the newfound confidence, he could be planning for another extended protest across the country. The story is still developing and we'll be tracking all the developments very closely. Our next story is about a diplomatic tussle, a bitter face-off between two neighbors, Greece and Turkey. They're trading barbs over illegal migrants, accusing each other of making them suffer. And at the crux of this tussle is the discovery of 92 migrants, 92 illegal migrants who were found without clothes along Turkey's border with Greece. Here's a report on what happened next.
What we are about to show you could be distressing to watch. We advise viewer discretion. On Saturday, these images went viral across the world. They showed 92 illegal migrants without clothes. These were apparently discovered completely naked along Turkey's border with Greece. Who were these people? According to reports, these migrants came from Syria and Afghanistan. They crossed the Evros River, which separates the two nations, and then entered Greek territory on rubber dinghies made in Turkey. But why were they naked? No one knows, and who is to blame for this? That depends on whom you ask. Greek authorities say they found the migrants in this state and immediately provided them clothes. They're accusing Turkey for their plight. The Greek migration minister says Turkey's behavior is a shame for civilization. The Greek civil protection minister says Turkey is instrumentalizing illegal immigration. Greek authorities further claim that migrants have officially testified that they were stripped naked by Turkish officials, a charge Ankara is vehemently denying. In a series of tweets posted late Sunday, the Turkish president's spokesperson described the allegations as groundless and baseless. He said the Greek fake news machine is on again. With these futile and frivolous efforts, Greece once again showed the whole world that it does not even respect the dignity of these oppressed people by publishing the photographs of the refugees it has deported, extorting their personal belongings. So both countries have washed their hands of all responsibility. Each says the other is lying. This blame game has upset the UN. This is what it said in a statement, without pinning blame on either side. We are deeply distressed by the shocking reports and images. We condemn such cruel and degrading treatment and call for a full investigation into this incident. The United Nations may have intervened, but there's frankly not much it can do. Throughout 2022, many such disturbing accounts have emerged, and there has been no accountability for them. For instance, just last week, 18 migrants died crossing Turkey to Greece. They were found in a shipwreck off a Greek island. In August, 38 migrants were found trapped on an islet near Greece. Among them was a 5-year-old who died during the journey. And in June, the UN accused Greece of ill-treating migrants and pushing them back in an inhumane way. There are many more examples, but the point is, both Turkey and Greece seem to be guilty of the same crime they accuse the other of. Turkey says Greece is violently pushing back migrants to frame Turkey. Greece says Turkey is deliberately pushing forward migrants to pressure the EU, which, by the way, is itself no saint in this face-off. 3 days back, a report by an anti-fraud watchdog revealed that the staff at EU's border agency, Frontex, covered up Greece's pushback of migrants. It said the staff ignored its responsibility and ignored the violation of the EU's fundamentals. What does this tell you? That the issue of illegal migration is more complex than what meets the eye, from Turkey to Greece, in fact, the entire European Union. The trail of accountability for the plight of migrants runs long and wide. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And now let's move on to a story that's got everyone talking. Will they or will they not? For the longest time, the question of BTS enrolling in mandatory military service never found a concrete answer. The question haunted fans in South Korea and worldwide, and can you blame them? Joining the military service would mean the band members step away from the limelight for nearly 2 years. Those who follow BTS or K-pop will tell you how heartbreaking this sounds, especially to the fans and those who take pride in calling themselves the BTS army. But all the speculation has now been put to rest. BTS say that they are going to serve in the military. Big Hit Music, which manages the band, has confirmed this development. Some of you may be wondering why a boy band enlisting for a state-mandated military service is primetime news. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because BTS is more than a band. BTS made its debut in 2013, and before anyone realized, the band became synonymous with K-pop. People were jamming to BTS songs in Europe, the United States, South Asia. The band has top music charts in the West. They have won American Music Awards, Billboard Music Awards. They have collaborated with singers globally. They've also performed around the world. BTS have been the world's best-selling artists for the past 2 years. They have also spoken at the United Nations, appeared at the White House, condemned anti-Asian hate crimes. You see, BTS is more than just a band. It's a brand, and a powerful one at that. So it made sense that their compulsory military service was delayed. Some quick context here. Like most of you already know, South Korea has a compulsory military service. The law says that all able-bodied Korean men aged between 18 and 28 must serve the country's military. The compulsory service period is between 21 and 24 months. Now, a part of all this is because South Korea is technically still at war with the North. And not serving the compulsory military service means serving a jail term. So as band members approached a certain age, fans couldn't help but ask whether the rule would also apply to BTS. The most Korean men can push their service to is till the age of 28. But then in 2020, the band's oldest member was turning 28. So South Korea passed a law. And under it, certain pop stars were allowed to defer their service till the age of 30. Not all pop stars, but those who were quote-unquote recommended by the Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism to have greatly enhanced the image of Korea, both within the nation and throughout the world. You know, like BTS. After all, the band were one of the major drivers of Hallyu, or the Korean wave. In many ways, the band globalized Korean culture, familiarized people with the Korean culture, made South Korea look attractive, trendy. BTS is among South Korea's biggest soft power, also its best-selling product. So why would South Korea want to kill this product? The question made sense. So did analysts who repeatedly hinted that BTS may just be exempted from military service altogether. But clearly, that's not what's happened now. Now, was it because the band decided to take a break? In June this year, BTS released a video. The band was celebrating their 9th anniversary. Band members sat around a dinner table with wine and crab legs. What followed broke millions of hearts globally. BTS said the members were tired. They wanted to try new things. In other words, they were breaking up, or as some said, taking a break. And this was back in June. And now you have this announcement saying that members will soon be serving their compulsory military term. So is there a connection between the two? Or is there something else that could explain why South Korea did not make an exception for BTS, the world's most popular band? Now, I put this question to Sung Young-ho. She's a South Korean journalist. She joined us earlier from Seoul. And take a look at what she had to say.
K-pop simply doesn't fall into the legal category of this quite outdated law that we have. Basically, BTS hasn't won any international accolades for the classical arts that are currently recognized in the law.
It is not like South Korea never exempted anyone from compulsory military service. It has. For one, footballer Son Heung-min. He was exempt from active duty. This after South Korea won gold in the Asian Games back in 2018. So the BTS army hoped that the K-pop band, the K-pop sensation, will also be granted an exemption. As we speak, fans worldwide are heartbroken. Compulsory military service means that the band will not be coming together anytime soon. So is this the end of the band? And here's what Sung Young-ho told us.
BTS, regardless of what happens, they've proven many times that they're very innovative, they're dynamic, they're hardworking, and once they're done with their compulsory months, I'm sure they'll be back. And, just think of Elvis Presley, for instance. He served his duty. He was conscripted into the US Army and he came back in full force. He's still a legacy.
Now, I'm sure that's what BTS fans worldwide want to know. To see their pop stars make a comeback. Let's hope they do. Our next story is about food. I asked, do you eat junk food or are you strictly off all processed food? What about veganism? It's a popular movement after all. There are plenty of arguments doing the rounds, telling you why you should turn vegan. Primarily, all of them are centered around health. But what if I told you today that if you're not careful, you could very well be an unhealthy vegan? Why am I saying that? Because of this report and this term, ultra-processed food, or UPF. Research blames ultra-processed food for higher levels of ill health. Now, this includes a higher risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, obesity, and even type 2 diabetes. Basically, ultra-processed food is bad for your health. So what is this loaded term, ultra-processed food? Allow me to explain. Food is essentially divided into 4 categories. 1, minimally processed food. This includes fruit, veggies, eggs, meat, milk. 2, this includes processed cooking ingredients, sugars, oil, and butter. Category 3, processed foods. We're all guilty of stocking our pantry with these. Canned vegetables, fish, bread, jam. Kids carry some of them in their school lunches, sadly. And finally, the villain of this story. Category 4, ultra-high processed food. These are low in protein and fiber, high in salt, sugar, and fat. And this is the food where the very structure of the plant and animal cells is destroyed. It's nutritionally empty and is processed by our bodies at abnormally rapid pace, making us hungry again in no time. So what comes to mind? Sadly, everything that is considered delicious and quick to put together. For instance, mass-produced bread, ready-to-eat instant meals, frozen pasta, pies, nuggets, fast food or junk food. Think burgers, pizza, French fries. I could go on. All these are classified as ultra-high processed food, and they're bad for you. But this is the news, right? We're taught the difference between healthy and junk food right from kindergarten. In fact, kids make school projects about that. Yet, as we grow up, our diets don't seem to reflect that. Let me show you some figures. The UK gets more than 50% of its calorie intake from heavily processed food. UPFs represent up to 80% of total calorie intake in the US and Canada, most of it from confectionery goods and sugar-sweetened beverages. In Australia, this figure is close to 42% of calories. So whichever part of the world you're watching me from right now, chances are ultra-processed food is a major part of your daily diet. Like it or not, most of the food that you're eating is processed. So should we remove most of these items from our daily diet and perhaps turn vegan? It's a global movement after all, where you remove all animal products from your diet, such as meat, dairy, eggs, and switch to a plant-based diet. Advocates of such a restrictive diet say it is good for your health. They say it's good for the environment. We're not debating that. But you would think that such a diet is free of all harmful processed food, right? Think again. Reports suggest that several plant-based substitutes are in fact ultra-processed foods. The logic is simple. When you try and imitate a product, there's a lot of processing involved. Can't have milk? Switch to oat milk, they say. Well, experts say that oat milk is full of additives. They're harmful for you. Now, I'm not saying that veganism is bad for you, but don't be fooled into thinking that that you're not eating what most of us in fact are. So what should you do? Can you just remove all processed ingredients from your diet overnight? Not really, because 1, it would be impractical. 2, time-consuming. And 3, you'll have to educate yourself extensively about how food is broken down and digested in your body. This isn't easy. So I'll just say exercise moderation. Pay attention to what's on your plate. Just because something is ready to eat doesn't mean it's good for you. And yes, it is easier to be an unhealthy vegan. In fact, it is easier than being a healthy one. And time now to take a look at what's happening around the world in Gravitas Global Headlines.
Pound rallies against the dollar as Britain's new Chancellor Jeremy Hunt rips up the mini-budget, reversing almost all tax cuts that spooked markets. Sweden's parliament elects right-wing Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson after 3 Swedish centre-right parties agreed to support Sweden Democrats. Iran vows an immediate response to the European Union as it prepares new sanctions on the Islamic Republic after over a month of protests sparked by Mahsa Amini's death. Iran Judiciary Authority says that 8 prisoners were killed in a fire that raged amid unrest inside Tehran's Evin prison, doubling the previously reported death toll. South Korea's troops kicked off their annual defense drills, designed to boost their ability and to respond to North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, amid simmering tensions over military activities by both sides. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida orders an investigation into the Unification Church as revelations about its ties to the ruling party came to light after the assassination of former Premier Shinzo Abe. Rapper Kanye West to buy conservative social media platform Parler after his Instagram and Twitter accounts were restricted over anti-Semitic posts. The death toll in Nigeria's worst floods in decades rises to more than 600. The disaster forces more than 1.3 million people out of their homes.
And that's a wrap on Gravitas. Thanks for watching with me, Priyanka Sharma. We leave you as always with Gravitas images.
Let's go.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ